Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Dentist Show. I'm Gary Takacs, the Thriving Dentist Show podcast founder and co-host. We have a fun episode for you today. Today's episode is titled, How to Become the Practice for the Dentistry You Love. This is something that should be of keen interest for all of our listeners. I'm excited about sharing this with you. Before we get to this episode, two quick announcements to make. Those of you that are longtime listeners, you know that we regularly put on virtual events, webinars, panel discussions, conversations with leaders in dentistry. And these are virtual. We do them on a regular basis. If you'd like to find out when the next one is, go to thrivingdentist.com/events, and you'll find the next virtual event on the calendar. I would encourage you to visit that site, maybe you bookmark it and visit periodically, because we're often adding new events. By the way, what's really cool about these events, besides the content and the information you get from it, is we offer those at no cost. We do it as a courtesy and in a way for us to express our appreciation for your listenership. So if you haven't done so already, come join us on a Thriving Dentist Show event, virtual event. And again, you can find that. You have to register for it. Go to thrivingdentist.com/events. If we're able to give CE, some topics do not enable us to provide CE, but if we're able to provide CE, you will get CE credits for attending those events. So it makes it a pretty good value. No cost, plus you can get CE. Anyway, come join us. The second announcement I have is we have a returning guest. You'll recognize his name, my co-host, Naren Arulrajah. And he's going to offer a Thriving Dentist marketing tip. And the marketing tip is titled, Why Consistency Beats Big Budget Marketing. Why Consistency Beats Big Budget Marketing. Well, with no further ado, here's Naren Arulrajah with that Thriving Dentist marketing tip.
Why consistency beats big budget marketing. This is Naren, co-host of the Thriving Dentist Show and the founder of Equa Marketing. We get a lot of clients who spend $10,000 a month, $15,000 a month when they come in, and a lot of them rely on ads, mostly Google ads, and then some of them use Facebook ads. After a few years, they are spending a fraction of that in SEO and organic marketing. And the difference between big budget ad-driven marketing and organic marketing is this. It's trust. See, when people click on an ad, they know that you have not earned it. Rather, you are desperate and you're using ads as the only way or the primary way to drive new clients. So people assume you're not good just because of the ad. So usually the average person coming from an ad is only giving you 15 seconds when it's a Google ad. And if they come from a social media ads, they're giving you 5 seconds. Now compare that to organic, meaning you're showing up organically on AI search or Google search, and you are now getting them to spend an average of 90 seconds. 90 seconds compared to 15 seconds is 6 times the difference, right? So you have to literally kiss a lot of frogs with ads. So at $4 a click, let's say 100 people before you get a single phone call. So now it's $400 of phone calls with Google ads. Now with SEO, it could be $60 a phone call, right? So it's a massive difference. So your marketing budget can be cut, by 80%, 90% with organic driven marketing versus big budget marketing. What I mean by organic marketing, it's not just showing up for a few keywords, it's really dominating all kinds of search. So that means you're showing up on Google, Google Maps, Google SEO, Google AI search, AI overview. By the way, Google still controls 95% of search, which is why it's the second most valuable company on the planet behind NVIDIA at $4.6 trillion. So Google owns the consumer market and owns search. So you want to focus on that, the AI component and regular component. You also don't want to miss out on ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, the other AI engine. So we pay attention to all this. So if you're dominating these, you could really cut down your budget. Now, the other benefit of organic marketing versus ads is that people trust you more, not just in terms of how much time they're spending on your website, but also in terms of once they become patients or once they call your office. So the conversations are different. They are not, doubtful conversations, double checking, triple checking, quadruple checking. And you have to really work hard to convince them, but rather they trust you from the day go because you were discovered, organically, not because you spend money on ads. Now, social media ads are even more expensive. Like typically social media ads, you're looking at, like I said, 5 cents, 5 seconds on the website. So you also have, in addition to it being a lot more expensive, even more so than Google ads, you also have the challenge of no shows. Why? They're watching a wonderful video and they were not interested in implants, but an implant ad that you are running showed up. So they don't even remember like clicking a button that automatically gave their information to you. And now you think they're going to come in and they are not. So you really have to watch out for, how you are spending your money. So I'm a huge fan of consistent marketing, meaning consistently dominating SEO, consistently dominating AI search, regular search, Google Maps. And to do that, there's a lot of pieces to it. And if you really want to find out, do you have awesome, consistent marketing where you're dominating all these search engines? Book a marketing strategy meeting, and it's equa.com/TD. And we will analyze and tell you if you're currently spending a lot of money on ads, how you can cut it over a period of time where you could literally save, $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month on all your ad budget, and instead, get the same quality patients over time without having to spend as much money. So check us out, equa.com/TD. If you have any questions, also go to the website, thrivingdentist.com, and contact us, and we would help. Hello, everyone. This is Naren, your co-host. Hope you enjoyed that tip that I shared with you. Why consistency beats big budget marketing. Hey, guys, if you have any questions, and ladies, contact equa.com/TD, and we will do thorough review of your current marketing and give you some tips. Once again, equa.com/TD. Hope you all enjoyed the 4th of July. I know it has been 2 weeks now since the 4th of July. And the topic we're going to be covering today is very timely and very poignant this time of the year. The second half of the year, you're thinking about how do I finish the rest of the year on an upbeat note? How do I, do something today perhaps that would not only help me finish the year strong, but perhaps even help me set up for an awesome 2027. And the topic is how to become the practice for the dentistry you love. And I want to read it again, how to become the practice or the practice for the dentistry you love. And the reason we emphasize the word the practice is because, we live in a world where everything looks similar and there are a lot of, corporate dental practices with 100, 200, 300, offices where dentistry is a commodity. And then, of course, on top of that, you have PPO plans that want dentistry to be a commodity because that way dentists have less and less power, less and less ways to, set their own lives, set their own agendas, do the kind of dentistry they went to school for, the dentistry they love, right? So how do you become the practice and still do the dentistry you love? I think comes down to a simple idea. And Gary has touched on this, and we have talked about, high value services. But in 2026, I think you have to go a step further. Yes, you can have a set of high value services you're passionate about, but what is that one service? What is that one thing that makes you stand out? Why? Because people will remember you for that. People will talk about you for that. So I think in today's conversation, us kind of thinking in those lines. I mean, as you are listening to this podcast, whether you're driving or whether you're sitting with a cup of coffee, listening to this weekly podcast, you are so used to, think about that, right? How do you pick the right service? How do you build around it? And how do you, make this a key part of your success? And I already teased you with a tip that talks about why consistency, once you have your story together, your plan together, why consistency is the most powerful way to build on it, and even for marketing or otherwise. So Gary, take it away.
I'm excited about this topic, Naren, because as I think about, my 46 years in dentistry, there's kind of a divide in our there's happy dentists and there's unhappy dentists.
Yes.
There's kind of a divide. And I'd like to think that our listeners are over here on the happy side. Hey, they listen to this on their own time. But what is one of the things that separates dentists that are happy and those that are less satisfied? And I think one of the characteristics is the ones that are happy are doing more of the things they really love to do. More of the services they love to do. and maybe they have one. You kind of broached that in the intro. Maybe there's something that you're really known for. What is that? Have you ever heard that saying, Naren? Jack of all trades, master of none.
I was thinking it when you were saying it. It's kind of funny how our brains work. I think this is more relevant in 2026, this idea of wanting to be a master of something, because you want to differentiate, you want to stand out, you want to be known for something. It's like your signature, right? I mean, I know you go to these high-end restaurants and they have a signature dish, something they are known for. It doesn't mean that every single time people are going to have that signature dish, but that's what makes that place attractive. That's what, it's like the beacon that everybody can see and, understand and, wrap their arms around. So I agree, Gary. I think if we had recorded this even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, I may not have been as enthusiastic about this idea of a signature service, but having worked with, dozens and dozens of practices over the last 12 months, mutual clients of ours, I noticed the ones who are doing really, really well, are known for something, and a lot of times it is a type of service, maybe something that has a name like implants, and other times it's the type of practice, right? I know one of the practices we were talking about the other day was a type of practice that was known for people, loved by people who hated going to dentists, and now they love going to a dentist. Of course, sedation is part of it, but it's the entire experience from the very first second they pick up the phone and call that office, and how they are welcomed all the way to, and the funny thing is, after the first visit, they love these love letter Google reviews saying, I have never in my 30 years of life experienced anything like it. And I'm never, ever, ever not going back anywhere else.
Well, that's where I was going to go with this, Naren. One of the cool things about being known for something is your marketing has the opportunity to be leveraged. In other words, you've got your patients talking about you everywhere they go.
Yes.
And how valuable is that when your patients are the ones that are spreading the great word. Of all the ways to attract new patients to the practice, and I love what Equa does with digital marketing, with organic SEO and other forms of marketing. Love it. But I think most of our listeners would say it's really cool when a patient refers someone else into the office. Refer and when you have something that you're really known for, those referrals can go up. So you can get more referrals because people are out there talking about it. And isn't that the coolest form of marketing when the public is out there talking about it? You're not talking about it. The public is talking about it. So we'll go into a deeper dive today on this one.
Thank you, Gary. Let's jump right in. My first question is, what is a signature service and why is this important in the context of a thriving practice? For me, correct me if I'm wrong, the way you define a thriving practice is that meets certain objectives. A practice you love jumping out of bed and going to work with, a team you love, treating people you love, being able to retire, when you want to and live a comfortable life. So there are certain attributes of a thriving practice. Why do you think this is instrumental? I know this is not something you talked about 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when you talked about a thriving practice, Gary.
Well, and I've called, I have called high value services to be a very important part of a practice format. I think a brilliant practice model, and this is my own perspective, you can adapt this as you see fit, but I think a brilliant practice model for a general dentist is to have a foundation of two things: everyday general dentistry, which is a whole range of things that fall under the category of general dentistry, and also a really strong hygiene department, If you think of that as a foundation, there's your foundation. A full scope of everyday general dentistry combined with a really strong hygiene department. And if that's the foundation, then what we build on top of that are a carefully curated selection of high-value services, of the things that are maybe more advanced, the things that you really love doing, that can provide life-changing type dentistry. The truth is, general dentistry can be life-changing. It's less likely to be doing fillings is less likely to be life-changing, unless it's involving pain or something like that. But when you add those signature services and maybe have a signature service that you're really known for, what would that be? And that can now truly change the complexion of your practice, where you have the foundation, everyday general dentistry, combined with a really strong hygiene department, and then you've added a carefully curated selection of high-value services. And within those high-value services, this is where I'm going to pivot that our audience hasn't heard before. Within those high-value services is a signature service. And the way I would define a signature service is what you would like to be known for. Dr. Pankey's signature service was helping people keep their teeth all their life. And he became known as, many of you know that I'm on faculty at Pankey Institute, and I get the privilege of spending time there as part of a guest faculty member. And Dr. Pankey was known, the public knew him as the dentist that will help you keep your teeth. He's what many people consider to be the father of modern day restorative dentistry, modern day complex restorative dentistry. And you have to go back, he graduated from dental school in 1922. And that was an era where people were not expected to keep their teeth. And how valuable was that, Naren, when he relocated to Florida from rural Kentucky? He practiced in Newcastle, Kentucky initially, but he found that population wasn't interested in keeping their teeth. So he relocated to Coral Gables, Florida. He became known. He had a signature service. I don't know that he would have used that language. It didn't really exist at that time. But his signature service was helping people keep their teeth. And patients would come to his practice, and as he'd get to know them, he'd say, "How can I help you?" And say, "Well, my neighbor said that you're the dentist who can help me keep my teeth." How valuable was that, Naren, in 1930?
It was amazing, right? I mean, I know at that time, today we take it for granted. I mean, can you imagine people, having their teeth pulled because they don't want to take care of it?
Well, that was the mindset of many people in the 1930s, that they were going to lose their teeth anyway. They might as well have them taken out.
Yes.
By the time that
it's seen as a headache. It's seen as a nuisance as opposed to something that you cherish and you take care of.
So the simple answer to that question, Naren, is a signature service is something you're known for by the public. And why it's important, I could go on indefinitely on the reason why. So maybe the most important, I'll focus on the most important reason, because you're going to find more enjoyment if you're doing what you love to do, and you're getting the feedback from patients that, is, "Doctor, this has completely changed my life." How does that feel? I mean, we all want to think we're doing things of significance. I'm reading a really good book. It's a short little book by Seth Godin. I like the way Seth Godin thinks about things. And the short title of the book is called The Song of Significance. The Song of Significance. So it allows you to be significant. That's why. Thank
you, Gary. Let's jump into the mechanics of this. So how does an owner, let's say a dentist owner, who's running a typical, privately owned practice, let's say one location, choose the right signature service? I imagine a lot of doctors get this wrong. Of course, I've heard of a couple of horror stories, but would like to share your experience. Even going back to that one example, I teased, which is this practice that's known for people who hate going to a dentist. They love going to that dental practice. I don't think they just on day one said, "That's who we want to be." I think they arrived at it over time, right? So maybe you can tell some stories, some examples of how do people arrive at their signature service.
Well, I'm going to be a little bit contrarian here. And when I say contrarian, those of you that know me know that I can be very analytical. And I love data, because data never lies. People do, but data never lies. I'm not going to go down the route of data and analytics. So I'm not going to say, well, in my market, what is the signature thing that a lot of people want to have done? I'm not going to go do that.
Right.
You can, not that necessarily is wrong, but I'm going to make a different suggestion. I think I'm going to ask you to vote with your heart, not your head. Vote with your heart. And what I mean by that, what is something that you enjoy doing? What is something you enjoy doing? And what is something that you would love to take hundreds, if not thousands of hours of CE on over the years to truly master that? And that's how I'd pick your signature service. Something that you already have some interest in, but the idea of going out and taking hundreds, if not thousands of hours of CE would be exciting to you. The kind of thing where you look forward to it on your calendar. Hey, I'm going out to take this course. And I can't wait. So it's not like, a grind, going out and it's like, this is what lights up your heart. So I wouldn't answer it with your head. I'd answer it with your heart. What is it? And maybe you don't know. Maybe you need to explore that a little bit. Maybe you need to, expand your CE and expand the things that you know. But you might have an inkling. You might have a hint of things that you think you might enjoy. But that's where I would start. I would start with your head. What is it that you would imagine? And you might be able to answer that instantly. And dentistry comes in lots of different flavors. Some dentists absolutely love endo, for example. They love providing endodontic therapy. They love it. And other doctors feel like, it's literally another day of the salt mine when they have to do endo. It's not right or wrong. This is dialed into you. Know yourself. Know yourself. So, one of the concepts I learned from Dr. Pankey, if you're going to be a master dentist, you need to know yourself. So answer that question in that kind. Know yourself. Follow your heart. What is it that you would truly love doing? And imagine yourself taking hundreds, if not thousands of hours of CE over the years. And that would be a joyful pursuit. That's how you pick your signature service. Now, what could they be? It could be things like cosmetic dentistry. Cosmetic dentistry is a range of things. It could be implant dentistry. It could be adult orthodontics. Maybe that's something you really love to do, and you'd like that to be a signature part of your practice. Could be complex restorative dentistry. On a broader context, it could be the field of, say, holistic dentistry and all the things that make up holistic dentistry. It could be the connection between the oral systemic connection, by the way your mouth is connected to your overall health. All of those things could be considered signature services. And I think it should come to you pretty naturally. And maybe for some of you, as you're hearing this, you literally have that already picked in your mind, for sure.
Once the owner picks the service, what are some next steps dentists can do to build this component of their practice?
Yeah, really great question. Now we're going to get in the weeds. So let's get in the weeds about this. And I'm going to use as an example cosmetic dentistry. And I'm not saying that should be your signature service, but I'm going to use an example, and that can be extended to whatever your signature service is. But one of the first things that I would do, once you feel like you've got the hands, the skills to deliver cosmetic dentistry, and cosmetic dentistry can be a lot of things, but I'm going to talk specifically about smile design. Smile design would be defined as typically an 8 or 10 unit upper anterior porcelain veneer case. Now, that's not the only thing that makes up cosmetic dentistry, but that would be something that would be considered a signature thing you were known for. One of the things, as you're building your skills, I would encourage you to find a couple of patients, find a couple of cases. So now we can start to build our library. And I would encourage you to schedule, let's say we're going to do a 10-unit upper anterior porcelain veneer case. Then I would find a couple of patients that you could do that case on. And I would, if you're a Monday through Thursday practice, you have a day off, I would encourage you to do that on Friday. Not that I want you to work Fridays at all, but now you're going to be able to do that case and deliver the attention that you need to really dial that case in. You, an assistant, and the patient. That's all you need. Notice you have to get up, and do hygiene checks. You don't have all the other hubbub of the office going on. You have the ability to just focus on that patient. And you might have a patient in your practice that would be a good candidate for that. But if you don't, because you haven't done that type of case before, find someone that can be the right patient for this practice, for this service. And you might even, I'm going to be a little controversial here, you might even offer it to a patient at a special arrangement. So maybe that patient would like to have a 10-unit porcelain veneer case done, but they can't afford it. So depending on your fee, the average fee for a veneer fee today is between $1,800 and $2,000. So if we're doing a 10-unit case, it's $18,000 to $20,000. Can we agree, Naren, that doesn't work for everybody?
I do agree, Gary.
Not everyone. So maybe there's someone in your practice who would like to have it done, but they can't afford it. So they're a patient we choose, and maybe we offer to them at lab fee only. Lab fee only. You're not going to make any money on this. But meanwhile, what is this going to do for us? That's going to help you refine all your in-office process, how you work with your assistant, the tray setups, everything with that. But then hopefully we'll also pick someone that can be an ambassador for you, And I would like you to do, as soon as possible, get a couple of those cases under your belt. Get a couple of cases over your belt. The ideal patient would be someone that can't necessarily afford it. If they can afford it, wait until you have your skills down, let them pay full price. Does that make any sense?
It doesn't, Gary. Doesn't.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Wait till they can afford it.
Oh, yeah, I understand. Right.
Yeah, I mean, then they can be your third case. Then they can pay for the fee.
Right.
But pick someone. I'll give you an example. A client of mine, it was this very case. It was aesthetic dentistry, cosmetic dentistry. And the patient that he selected was a patient in his practice. She was a single parent school teacher, high school teacher. And she happened to be the doctor's kids, a daughter and a son, happened to be the doctor's kids' high school English teacher. Now you can imagine, Naren, the income of a high school, single parent high school English teacher with no other resources. It might be difficult to pay $18,000 to $20,000 first month. And so he did this case on her. She was absolutely ecstatic about it, was so thrilled that she went out and told everybody she contacted. Everybody came, they'd compliment her on her smile. And she said, I've got to tell you about my dentist. And she ended up being a great referral source. So pick someone that has the clinical condition that you're looking for, maybe that can't afford it, and would also be the kind of person out there in the community that has contact with other people. Naren, what personality type are we looking for on the DISC personality style?
Someone who's a strong I, correct, Gary?
A high I.
Yeah.
They know everybody.
Yeah.
And hopefully they know everybody and are in contact with people.
Right.
Don't pick the guy that works the midnight graveyard shift at the ball bearing factory. He may be an I, a frustrated I because of his job, but he's not going to come in contact with others. So do a couple of those cases. And what are we going to do? Naren, what's the biggest flaw you find in when clients start working with Equa? What's some of the biggest flaws you find with their website? What don't they have?
I think I don't want to get too caught up in the weeds, but the first thing I think they're missing is they don't really understand who their ideal patient is. So usually they don't start with that end in mind. Usually they're running ads, they're doing all the wrong things. And then they don't understand what marketing is at a fundamental level, which is...
Well, you're going way deeper than I am. I'm going fundamentals. They're missing before and after photos.
I see what you mean. Okay.
They don't have before and after photos.
Right.
So meanwhile, I'm a cosmetic. Well, would before and after photos help?
Of course, because if I'm going to spend $30,000 or even $20,000, and I can't visualize myself being in the shoes of the new patient in the form of a full face after photo, why would I give you that $30,000? I wouldn't, you wouldn't, like imagine you want to spend $100,000 on a kitchen and the person you are trying to hire has no examples of the kind of kitchens you have done and you can't visualize it. So why would you take a risk? Same thing here, right? It's, you might be somebody with a lot of reviews. They may have heard of you. Maybe you're showing up on Google. Maybe they even like you because they saw your video and you seem down to earth. But at the end of the day, they're coming to transform their smile, and they need proof that you have transformed smiles like theirs.
Now, using my next steps, you're going to take befores and afters. You're now going to have befores and afters.
Okay.
On these two cases.
Right.
And now they go up on, and Equi's going to create, if Equi's your marketing firm, they're going to create a landing page for you.
Right.
Don't make people work for it. Make it easy.
Yes.
Make a landing page around cosmetic dentists and prominently display these before and afters. So this isn't your first rodeo.
Right.
So let me continue another step, another next steps. As you start, I don't want you to always do these cases on your off day. As you start doing more of this, I want you to think about how you build that in your scheduling template. And maybe what that means, and I'll give you a great example of a client of mine I've worked with for a number of years, and this is exactly how he does it. And I'm asking you to think about how cool this would be in your practice. 3 days a week, he is a happy general dentist. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, he loves doing general dentistry. Mm-hmm. And his schedule, as you might imagine, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. He has 2 hygienists on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. On Thursday, he changes hats. Takes the general dentist hat off and he puts on his cosmetic dentist hat. And on Thursday, he chooses not to have hygiene because he doesn't want to be distracted. And he has either one patient, or 2 patients. If it's 2 patients, he's going to do, say, maybe a 10-unit prep in the morning on one patient and a different 10-unit seat in the afternoon. If it's 1 patient, it might be a 20-unit prep or a 28-unit prep in the morning, and that's it. That might be the whole day, by the way, and that's it. What day do you think he likes most, Naren? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday?
The day that he is doing those big cases, Gary.
Yeah, he loves it. Now, it didn't just happen like, snap of a finger. It happened over time. But that's where he is today. And he truly loves his model. Absolutely. It's a very carefully adapted model to where his heart is. Absolutely. So those are some next steps you can follow. But the key is to get some cases, whatever it takes to get those cases. I would think it'd be a good investment. You want the patient to have an investment in the case. Have the patient pay the lab fee. Great way to get started.
Right. Thank you, Gary. Let me go to the next questions. I've heard you say getting the schedule right is critically important, and that if you get the schedule right, many positive things happen. Please share some scheduling tips that will help our listeners succeed with adding this signature service.
Yeah, I truly believe with every ounce of my DNA, it's important. We've got 24 systems, and all 24 systems are important. I truly feel like, all of them are important. But man, you get the schedule right, and a whole bunch of things happen in a positive way. Get the schedule right. So as you're adding these high value, as you're adding your, let's stick to the language, signature service, develop a template for your team. Develop a scheduling template for here's how I want that scheduled. For my own sanity, for the end result that we're looking for, and for the patient experience. Here's how I want. Don't expect your team to know this if that hasn't been part of your practice in the past. So you might have to explore this a little bit, but get a template. And by the way, don't try to cram a bunch of things in there as you're trying to deliver a very high level of customer service to your patient for that signature service. If you have to get up 3 times during the hour and do hygiene exams, how's that patient experience going to be, Naren?
It's not going to be fun, Gary. I mean, like if I'm the patient, I'll get annoyed and irritated.
Well, I think they might be thinking, hey, I'm investing a lot in this. I'd love to get I'd love to get your focus on this. By the way, you're a lot more productive per hour when you're doing your signature service, whatever that is.
Right.
So you can afford to do that. So yeah, get the schedule right, and help your team members understand what that means. What does that mean? What shouldn't be put opposite it? And you can be very idealistic with that, and let them know what that looks like. and then coach them. And maybe after, as you're doing some of this, go back and revisit those days with your scheduling team members to say, hey, here's where I might have been able to use a little more time. Here's where I need less time, and compliment whenever possible. Boy, you scheduled this really well. Let me show you what you did well here. And then let them, through real-time feedback, get your feedback on this, and have some grace. Understand that this is new for you and new for them, new for your team members. Give them some grace as you're doing this. Naren, I want to pivot because this discussion is really great, but it'd be really cool if they had patients actually looking for your signature service. And that would be marketing. So, Naren, imagine that a listener now has chosen a signature service. You could get your first cases from your existing patient base. But can we agree that we would expand the universe a lot more to let the community know that this is your thing?
Yes. Yes.
But if the community doesn't know, then nothing's going to change. So from the marketing side, how do you become known marketing-wise for that signature? What do you do to become known marketing-wise for that signature service?
Great question, Gary. Dentistry is not something people are forced to like. They choose it, right? If, for example, I don't like my crooked teeth, I might be looking at Invisalign. Maybe I don't like my smile, I might be looking at cosmetic dentistry. Maybe I'm afraid to go to a dentist, but I know I really need to go to a dentist. The older I get, I might be considering sedation. So step one is, when you have picked your signature service, let's say sedation, are you the one they're finding when people who are looking for that type of a solution are on Google, which happens to control? I was looking at some stats today, Gary, this morning. Google is used 500 billion times a month, 500 billion, 500 billion times a month. And when you compare that to the other AI platforms, they are like less than a billion, maybe 2 billion. So Google still is like 98% of the market. So when people are looking for that type of service in your community, in your area that you're targeting, are they discovering you again and again and again? And it could be a conversational query like, I'm afraid to go to a dentist. Who should I go to? That's a conversational query, and Google will give you this AI overview answer. Or it could be like, sedation dentist near me, where Google Maps might show up. Or it could be, painless dentist Chicago, where your regular SEO might show up. Doesn't matter how they are communicating with their search engine, including ChatGPT and Gemini and all the other platforms, but mainly Google. Are you the one they keep seeing consistently? Because if they keep seeing you consistently, one of the things happens. Have you heard of the messy middle, Gary?
Messy middle is nowhere anyone wants to be.
Yes, that's
a colleague of mine coined a phrase many years ago.
Yeah.
And this is a colleague that absolutely loves dentistry, has high appreciation for dentists. And although he wasn't a dentist himself, he worked in our profession. And he said, doctor, you don't want to be a dim. And he said, let me give you, it's a dentist in the middle.
Right.
So there's a T in there, but he left the T out in the acronym DIM. You don't want to be dim. You don't want to be dim.
Yeah.
No. Because when you're a dim, it's your, again, the jack of all trades, master of none. You bounce from one thing to another. You don't have, there's no grounding. You have no passion. You have no signature thing. You don't want to be a dim.
So imagine like messy middle in the sense of searches. You show up rarely, but not all the time. So pretty much it's like those people never remember you. Those people don't come back to you. Those people don't choose you, right? Why? They don't see you consistently.
Not repeatable.
You're not repeatable. So one of the things you want to do is you want to make sure at least for 20, 30 different ways people are looking for that service, you keep showing up organically in your community. So that's number one. Number two is some of the things you already touched on. Now they know that you exist. You can do that. And you are the one who shows up consistently. So now you have, captured their imagination, captured their thought. Now they are curious. They go to your website. When they go to your website, do they see a welcoming video talking about that particular service that is your signature service? Why you are passionate about it? Why, you have been doing this for a long time and, asking them to see some of the outcomes you have been able to produce in the form of those before and afters with full face after pictures. So get them to then like you and trust you with pictures and reviews. And now a lot of these things, Gary, it's not like one and done. You have to stay on it. I know people think SEO is something they, do well and then they don't need to worry about. But Google is changing its rules 10 times a day. Why? Google doesn't want you to get free traffic, and they restrict it to 3% of the people who do get that consistently. Everybody else have no choice but to buy ads. So are you doing SEO consistently? Are you getting those before and afters added to your website consistently? You don't want to just forget it. Are you getting those paragraph love letter reviews? By the way, they also have become more important in the world of AI. Why? They're great signals for search engines, especially AI engines, to know if you are who you say you are. Because we all can say wonderful things. We all can, rank on SEO. But what if those reviews don't have the depth, the words to describe that you indeed are the thing that the patient thought you are? So these are the things I would focus on. Now, if anyone is struggling with this, they're not really doing well, again, book that marketing strategy meeting, equa.com/TD. Anything you want to add, Gary, in terms of what I
want to add one thought on that, and that is that not every signature service has credentialing. But if there is an opportunity to credential yourself, I want to give you strong encouragement to do that.
Yes.
For example, I use the example of Cosmetic Dentistry. Join the AACD and work on becoming an accredited dentist. It's a very small percentage of dentists that are accredited. And if you really want to credential yourself, become a fellow in the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. To become accredited, you've got to present 5 cases. To become a fellow, you've got to present 50. And now that'll not only, the work that you do is worthwhile by itself to do that, but Google also recognizes credentials. And by being recognized in terms of credentials, you'd be much more likely to be presented, as the choice for those signature services. I want to close with a hopeful thought, and I'm going to do so by a case study. One of our thriving dentist coaching clients, I'll leave his name nameless out of confidentiality, but he had been kind of piddling around with Invisalign, and was doing 3 starts a year. When we started working together, and I said, "Yeah, I noticed that you do Invisalign, but not much." He goes, "Yeah, I really love it, but we're just not getting much traction." And he said, "I'm a little embarrassed to tell you this, but I feel like we do the starts so rarely that I've got to go back and study my training materials to learn how to do this." Anyway, and we decided in the context of this episode to really make that a signature service in his practice. And as we started to focus on and do all the things we talked about in this episode, he went from doing 3 starts a year, Naren, to 1 start a week. 1 start a week. So instead of 3 at the end of the year, he's got 50 starts a year. And that was just the beginning. It's now changed. Actually, the numbers are a multiple of that today, and it became his signature service. And he went from a general level of satisfaction. I was feeling okay, to where now he loves going to work because this is something that he's really incorporated in his practice. It's become his signature service for sure. So you can do this. Let me reinforce what you said, Naren. If it's marketing help you need to attract people for your signature service, contact EQUA. If you'd like help on the coaching side, to really make this an embedded part of your practice, we are accepting new clients at Thriving Dentists. Go to thrivingdentist.com/CSM. That stands for Coaching Strategy Meeting. That would be a 1-hour Zoom meeting with me, where I get to learn more about your practice. We can talk about your signature service and talk about how we make that from concept to reality. In any case, would love the opportunity to talk to you if that was your wish. Well, Naren and I, in conclusion here, thank you for the privilege of your time. Hope we've stimulated some thinking around your signature service. And here's to incorporating that in your practice for your benefit and also for your patients' benefit and for people in your community. We look forward to connecting with you on the next Thriving Dentist Show.
When you cry, be sure to dry your eyes, 'cause better days are sure to come.